like a lot of the country, but maybe not as much as a lot of the country. I've been somewhat following the horrific case of Gabby Petito. And of course, she was a social media influencer or whatever. And she and her fiance went in her van to make a cross-country trip during the summer to visit the western United States. And she wanted to document their travels and adventures. And as we know, it turned out not so good. And her body was found in an area in or near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. This couple lived in Florida. And she knew him, I guess, from high school. I don't know if they were boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever. Way too damn young, in other words. And she had, you know, some psychological issues, I guess. OCD, she said in this video, among other things. But you know, if you're in a van, an itty-bitty van like that one, and you're with somebody, you're going to get on each other's nerves. But it was clear that the dude was, his name is Brian Laundrie. And it's clear that he would be the person of interest. And of course, this full video of the body cam of a traffic stop from back in August 12th, 2021. It's chilling to watch because it's clear she was in distress, that he was being violent to her, and knowing that and it's always hindsight, of course, you always have to watch this in hindsight, that within 3 weeks she would be dead. Most likely, almost certain, at the hands of this dude who played innocent like he was the battered one here. In this video, he was playing the cops here like a violin. And people second judged the cops, but remember, they didn't have a crystal ball and could predict in the future, although all the red flags were there. But can you imagine being those cops at that stop and knowing now that they could have prevented her death, but they didn't know that then? There's a hell of a lot of feeling guilty about it because they didn't see it, that they were being played. But anyway, so whatever happened there near the Grand Teton National Park, her body was dumped or buried or whatever, and he takes off in her van clear across the country. I guess he didn't give a shit whether, you know, it made him look guilty. He took it, went back to Florida, and then he was back there for a little bit, and then he took his car, and he went to a refuge or a reserve, I should say, not a refuge, a reserve, full of alligators, you know, swampy thing, and the police combed that area, and they couldn't find anything. So either it was a ruse, and he just left that there, or his parents did, and he escaped, maybe left the country like the infamous Alex Kelly, the Darien, Connecticut rapist, way back in the 80s, and lived the high life in Europe, or South America in his case, or Cuba, which doesn't have an extradition arrangement with the United States, or the alligators got him. And if there's any justice in the world, the alligators got him. And he met even a worse end than his fiancée. But I get so goddamn pissed off that, and you know, and I should never go over there. That idiots like at the Democratic Underground, they try to make it all about intersectionality. Oh, well, what about all the black women who are killed? What about all the women of color? What about all the people of color? Well, it's not about the people of color, okay? And the reason they're covering this is because this girl had a following, or this young woman had a following on social media. That's the reason it's being covered. And yes, there is a tendency by the media to focus on especially class. It isn't even necessarily race, but class, social class and stuff. And frankly, the average murder case or the average missing persons case is of local interest, and they're not very interesting. The ones that get profiled on shows like Dateline or 2020 or 48 Hours, they tend to be the more interesting cases. And usually those cases are submitted to producers by viewers as a possibility of coverage. By the way, that's the dishwasher in the background, in case you're wondering what the noise is. I didn't feel like shutting it off. But, so, that, that's that. But it isn't all about race, okay? Don't quit making it all about so-called identity politics. I get sick of it. But that's what they do in sites like DU. And what it does is it denigrates all women. Because this is a domestic violence issue. This is a sex issue. Sex as in a political class issue. It's a power issue. It cuts across all groups. I mean, if you want to talk about it, if you want to yammer and bitch and moan, the vast majority of murder victims in the United States are men. Upwards of, I think, 79%, maybe 77% are men. So women, it's a lot less common. And I looked at the most recent statistics showed that almost as many black women as white women are victims of murder. And almost all of those women, no matter what, and less so in other racial groups, but almost all those cases it's domestic violence. Or it's somebody they know. They're victims of somebody they know. And of course, almost all murderers are male. So it's a power issue between men and women. So I'm real sick of it. Quit bringing identity politics into it. Quit bringing intersectionality and all that horse shit into it. And critical race theory, all this horse shit. And that's what they do on sites like Democratic Underground. They can't see the real issue. All they see is, well, she's a pretty white girl. Well, fuck's sake, she's dead. You are what you are, what you're born with. She's dead. You're still alive, bitching about it. So, yeah, pisses me off. But then, if that's bad enough, we'll find out if old Laundrie is dead or alive. If we ever do. And those parents of his should definitely be really watched like a hawk. But I think one of the most disturbing cases I ever saw, ever heard, was this one that they had an episode on 48 Hours this last week. And this, I'll link to the website 48 Hours. This will only be up for a few days, and then you'll have to pay for it, unless somebody gets creative on YouTube and they copy it for people to see. But this girl, and she was a girl, 17 years old, just a few days out of high school graduation. She was murdered by a guy who couldn't take no for an answer. He was like a friend or an acquaintance. He wasn't really a boyfriend, but he wanted more, I think, than what she was interested in. And he killed her, and it wasn't just that he killed her, he filmed the damn thing. She was another one who had a social media presence. And, yeah, to a degree. Not like Gabby, but she had a presence. But this dude that killed her, he filmed the murder. And then he turned around and he uploaded it. And of course, it went viral. And that was bad enough. And her family tried to get it all taken down. I think for the most part they got it taken down, but you can't ever get it completely removed. But that was bad enough. Who could be sick enough to film a murder and upload it? Who could be that damn sick? But almost as bad, or in some respects worse, is the family continues to be tormented by these idiots, and most of these are incels, okay? Another bunch of entitled dudes. And they were harassing her family and showing the dead pictures, showing the murder, the video murder. That's the way they intimidated her family. What in the hell is wrong with people? What in the hell is wrong that we're so screwed up to do something like this? I don't get it, folks. I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't even understand our society anymore. It's so screwed up. But hey, the Democratic underground people say, well, look at her race. That's the only thing that's important. No, it's the violence. It's the power issue. It's the harassment. It's the misogyny. And that's what it is. Really, what your ethnic background is way secondary to this. This is violence of men by men against women. That's what this is about. This is what it was with Bianca Devins. This is what it was with Gabby Petito. They were both victims of horrific domestic violence. And how dare anybody try to shame people who have concern, who care about the issues of domestic violence? How dare these people try to turn it into, well, what about this one? What about this one? No, this is what it is. And if these women shouldn't die in vain, shouldn't have died in vain. If anything, it should point out the ongoing problem of domestic violence, violence against women. In the case of Bianca Devins, her killer was convicted, and he's in prison, and hopefully he'll never get out. And so, but here, we don't know how this one's going to end. As I said, he might, Brian Laundrie may be alligator food, but either he's alligator food or he's another Alex Kelly, and with his parents' help, skipped the country or is hiding out someplace. But anyway, yeah, I thought I'd put in my 2 cents worth about the latest goings on in the world of domestic violence.